What up, guys? Welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu podcast episode. I don't even know what it is. It's 1:00 in the morning here in Las Vegas time, which means it's 4 a.m. to my Kentucky brain and body. I'm half like keeping my eyes open here. But again, we just got done watching the CJI 2 day 2. The event's over, so we wanted to go over and do a episode with you guys. Kind of just go over, both days, talk about what happened, the good, the bad, the ugly, the controversies, the different things that we saw, and maybe some things that could possibly be improved. So thank you guys so much for being here today.
Big thanks to our sponsor for helping make the podcast happen, Athletic. ATHLETHC, as the name implies, it is a THC mint that's sort of like microdosed. I've seen it called like the daily microdose, where you take it, you're not going to be buzzed out of your brain and be slobbering around and whatever else. It's just to help get you into a particular state that could be useful for certain activities. So for instance, they have one mint called Flow. And the whole idea about Flow is it's formulated to help you get into a more flow state. Sometimes I'll take it during rolling sessions where, especially if I'm playing with something new and I just want to play. I don't really want to win the roll, so to speak. I don't want to try to get any, I just want to see where it goes. I find it helpful. It helps me get into a more relaxed state. I don't feel any grogginess from it. Years ago, I took, I ate some special brownies and I felt incredibly groggy the next day. And I remember when I was taking the athletic mints, I was like, I don't want to, I'm really apprehensive about taking stuff because I don't want it to mess up my flow.
Right.
It didn't. Very easy to take. And again, no grogginess or nothing. If you guys want to check out any of their products, because they have several different mint formulations, all of them have a very low dose of THC and they have other cannabinoids along with them. You can check them out at Athletic, ATHLETHC.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu10 for 10% off the order. Also, thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll, for being a longtime sponsor of the podcast. They make a lot of great jiu-jitsu gear. I get a lot of my stuff made through them, both for my jiu-jitsu brand, but also the gym that I have, like our gis and rash guards and stuff. I get their stuff. Great quality stuff, good customer service. They take care of you if you need something, if something goes wrong. They've got everything from t-shirts and rash guards and shorts. And I mean, everything and anything jiu-jitsu related, they make it. They're one of the manufacturers that PGF uses, the professional grappling uses, that to help make their stuff for some of the teams. I don't know if they still are, but they were last season. But again, if you guys want to check them out and just browse through their website, see if you find anything you like, go to their website at epicrollbjj.com, EPICROLLBJJ.com. And when you get there, checkout code is Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. Also, thanks to our sponsor, Charlotte's Web. They are one of the OGs in the CBD space, the cannabinoid space. And again, they have a really well-tested, well-produced product. Again, CBD is one of those weird things where it's an unregulated market, right? So the FDA doesn't have it locked down like they do a lot of other things. And so they've done studies before where the CBD market is all over the place, where, you think you're getting this, but you're really getting this, or you think you're getting X amount, but really you're not getting that much. You're getting less than that. And so they're one of the good guys in the CBD space where they're making a lot of good products. Everything's third-party tested, so you can ensure the quality of it is there. And then also, you know what you're putting in your body. On top of that, they have a lot of other different products, things like CBN products, which are great for trying to help you get more sleep. And again, as we get older, that's kind of an important thing. It's one of our main tools for recovery. Is that everybody wants to pop TRT and everything else, and that's perfectly fine. Of course, do what you want to do, but getting your sleep habits into check is really useful, and CBN products can be really helpful to that. They also make some functional mushroom products as well, balms and rubs, anything and everything, just tons of stuff. Take a look at their website, charlesweb.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order at checkout. Also, if you guys want to support the podcast directly, you can check us out at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. When you go to the website, you can look at what we have to offer. There's a bunch of perks. And again, it's a very inexpensive price. And so again, when you join up, you get a ton of perks for, it's super cheap. We're practically giving the damn thing away. You spend more at like McDonald's or Starbucks or whatever place you go to, in one visit, and you're done. And so again, if you guys want to check it out, go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. We give you guys a bunch of extra content and exclusive stuff. And on top of that, you get to support the podcast that you're listening to, and we appreciate it. Last but not least, guys, if you want to get my daily email, the Chew Crew email, check it out at chewjitsu.net/join. When you join up to the Chewjitsu email, you will get my daily email, as I said, almost daily. And then on top of that, I will send you an ebook that goes through 12 different strategies on improving jiu-jitsu faster through focused rolling. And the ebook can give you some different strategies. There's also a video in case you don't want to read, if you just want to listen to me tell you. There's an ebook and a video that goes with it, but it'll give you over 12 different strategies on how to improve with focus. It's one of the most important things. And if you're an older grappler, you have limited time. And I just say this because I know our demographics. We got older people. If you're an older grappler, you have limited time training. And so you can't screw around with like, I'm just going to show up and, hey, I'm here. That's fine early on. But again, as soon as you start to actually have a little bit of skill under your belt, you want to start giving it some focus and start directing it. And you don't have to be a black belt to do that. I show you how to do it both from white into black belt and everything in between. So check it out at jujitsu.net/join, JOIN, to get the daily email and get the ebook that I give away in the video.
What up, guys? So it is late. It's 12 o'clock Las Vegas time. I think it's mountain time, which is about 3 o'clock in my hometown. So I'm fairly tired, but we just got done watching the event, the CJI 2. It's over, and wanted to sort of wrap up. We, been watching it for the last 2 days, taking notes, things like that, and wanted to jump into it. We'll get into the obvious sort of, the elephant in the room and talk about the finish if you guys watched it, which I think, we'll talk about it more in a second, but we'll start kind of just quickly going through the first day. First off, I thought, again, there was some different things going on. One of the things that I talked about this in one of my videos before is that you cannot have a combat sports event. So first off, let me kind of go back a little bit. I like the Craig Jones Invitational. I thought it was a good event overall for the most part. I was a big fan of last year, came out to support it this year. Generally, like, Craig seems to be doing good things. I like to support it, whatever. But this event, one of the things I didn't like about it, one is first off, when they announced the teams, I thought it was going to be a teams duel, like a wrestling duel or maybe like an AIGA type thing. I think that would have been a good format for it. But when they announced it was a quintet, I wasn't as excited because I'm not the biggest fan for quintet. It can be fun sometimes as a novelty, but the issue with the quintet is a lot of times you have these draw moments where if I don't submit you, it's just a draw and that's it, and no win, no loss. It creates passivity, right? This goes back to the Metamoris event that many of you guys probably remember from 2012, where it was a sub-only thing, right? Which means, they're thinking, okay, it's going to make it exciting. But the issue is that you don't have the stick, right? If you think about human psychology, we do more to avoid discomfort than we do to chase pleasure, right? So when you think about, for instance, many of you have a coffee addiction. You drink it every morning, and you have to drink it every morning because otherwise you get headaches, right? Well, you're not drinking that coffee necessarily just because you want to feel good. That's part of it, but a big reason is because you don't want to feel bad, right? Talk to people, they're like, oh, I gotta have my morning coffee. I can't wake up. I'm so groggy. I'll get a headache, whatever. They're not talking about, man, I feel great when I have coffee. It becomes their baseline. And when you listen to people that are addicts, like, they will use a substance to get back to a baseline. That's why they do it. So you think about that. A lot of times in these situations, you have people like, for instance, the Bertolos, the Tackett's, the Gary Tonins, the Chrome Gracies, whomever you wish to pick. But there are certain fighters that, you put them with a good dance partner and they will make a good match out of it, right? Pretty much they're always good matches. Doesn't matter to the organization. But with most competitors, there has to be a reason to get them going. And with the sort of situation that we had this weekend where they were pseudo draws where you didn't have someone get their hand raised, there wasn't an L being put on their record, a lot of them, there was a lot of passivity. I didn't like that. I thought that was kind of it was a big change from last year where you had open scoring. There was a lot of transparency with that. It wasn't like that this year. And you had a situation where these guys knew if they were up or down, you knew if they were winning or losing, and they knew it, so they could push the pace. And so, I think getting into the event, one of the big rubs that I had this year, one of the things I thought was not a good thing was the whole quintet format where basically 66 kilos were essentially not really all that useful. The Dorian and a couple of the other guys, they did a hell of a job. For sure. But basically, unless you're getting scored up against another person, and just, if you're the 66 with a 99 kilo or 99 plus, it's really tough. And, you had just a lot of matches where they're draws because you don't have the stick at the end of it saying, hey, you're going to lose this match. you got to go. And so that first day, I mean, you had I think, what was it, like, was it four?
I think we have 4 submissions.
4 submissions.
Probably how many matches? 40?
40, something like that.
Well, not counting, that's just in the quintet format. I mean, the women
matches were good.
They were great. But
they were going through that. They were going through the 3-round style.
Yeah.
And I thought those matches were pretty good.
It was like a throwback, right? It was a throwback
from
to last year. Exactly.
Well, and the Sarah Gaval match was fantastic. I mean, that was a good match. Those women, like, they went after each other. It was a fantastic match. But yeah, there was a lot lacking on that first day when we first got into it. And again, it's tough because you capture lightning in a bottle twice. That's tough to do. And last year we had no expectations for Craig with this thing. We're just like, let's see what he does. It was a great event, and we're like, hey, this is amazing. This year there's expectations.
Yeah.
But with those expectations, sometimes, maybe they don't necessarily live up to what we were expecting.
I would say, the venue was great. The setup was great. The pit, everything, like the setup was there. Like the idea, the concept, like the setup was awesome.
I liked the setup, yeah. I even liked the idea of teams. It would have been great to see duels, I think.
Well, we'll get into that in a second. But I do want to say early on, after the first couple of matches, you realize something's missing here. It's like we're missing something. Like something in this equation is not there. And then you start getting these decisions, and you're like, is this kind of the...
Well, and they weren't even decisions. They were like, well, I mean, I guess you were getting the decision wins for the team.
Yeah.
Because it was like, for you guys that weren't there, or weren't watching, and if you guys were, then this is repeating it, they would give it would be like a draw where they would just both be double eliminated. But there was a scoring criteria that was being put in place, and they were scoring it as a tiebreaker. So people were winning and losing matches, but nobody knew who was winning and losing until the very end.
Until the end.
And I don't think that's ideal. I think people need to know. And I think it brings some like finality and excitement to the thing to actually see someone get their hand raised and to reward their hard efforts because there's a lot of tough matches that were fought.
Yeah. On the first day, there was a little bit of this kind of like almost camping out and like this half guard, kind of trying to pass, doing enough, but not getting into any kind of danger. So you saw all those matches that kind of stayed in almost like one position, a little bit back and forth, some hand fighting. There wasn't a lot of putting yourself out there. There really wasn't a need to, because you're like, I can just do just enough. Mm-hmm. Even though both of us get quote unquote eliminated, our scores still pass on to the end if there's if it ends up being a draw. I don't even know how many of the events ended up being where one team actually won and it didn't go to a decision, a judge's decision.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other thing, which we had a little controversy with that. But Chewy, so for people that don't know, you're talking about a duels format.
Yeah.
What exactly is a wrestling duels? And also, let's maybe talk about if there's anything after the first day where we kind of had some issues or some things that
there's some controversial moments in the first day. So like a wrestling duels, if you're not familiar, guys, what happens is there's weight classes. And you start at a certain weight class and you work your way up or down, go through them. And, for instance, if this was a wrestling duel style, the 66 would have went against the 66 kilo guy and they're done. Then the 77 versus the 77 and so forth. And in wrestling, you'll get a certain amount of points for a pin. You'll get a certain amount of this points if you score a wide margin of points, so you'll get more for your team. And if it's like a tighter match where maybe you just beat a guy on a point, you get a certain amount of points, right? But you get more points obviously for a pin and this sort of thing. And you have these exciting moments because in wrestling sometimes it's like you're down so many points and you have to go get a major decision victory, or you got to get a pin or whatever, and you get those kind of moments. And the issue that we had this weekend is that in a lot of cases, the matches didn't matter, because it was a decision, yes, but as soon as someone else gets a submission, your match doesn't matter anymore. Whereas, let's say you gave a team 3 points for a submission, 1 point for a ref's decision. Well, then every one of those matches matters, right? And this way, let's say that, one guy gets a submission, great. Well, then maybe, the other team scores 3 points separately because of ref's decisions. You go into the finals match with, okay, hey, someone's got to win this thing, right? And I think that again, where you have a winner and a loser, you create that stick. It's one of the reasons why I like the Jiu-Jitsu Open. Like I was like, it's a sub only, but we have a ref's decision. You have to have a ref's decision. It's the same thing, even like the CJI last year. You have a ref's decision. But going back to the wrestling duels, you stick in your weight classes, because I think one of the things I don't care for it. It's fun. It's a novelty. It's interesting, like open divisions. But you see these smaller guys that were competing this weekend, most of the submissions came from the big fellas.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be the 66. And I mean, maybe, everybody was like, well, Lachlan Giles, 2019. I'm like, yeah, but, that was 2019 where people are a little bit craftier than they were thinking back then. They kind of understand that, hey, man, you got to watch out for these guys a bit. I think Lachlan took those guys by surprise. I don't think they were expecting that when he did it. But you stick in your weight classes, and I think that makes it more valuable. That each match is worth points, and the lower weight classes have a chance to actually put a score on the board. Right. Versus in this, they were, basically just like hang on for dear life. Like Owen Jones, was celebrating because he didn't get submitted by Kynan, right? I think that was the match.
Yeah, Owen was 66 kilo. Yeah. Kynan was 99.
Right. Which I mean, he should celebrate. But if you have someone celebrating because they didn't lose, then you have a problem for an event that's supposed to be for spectators to watch. Because people are going for submissions.
So potential idea for, we said like a duels format where equal weight classes or go against each other, and then you give it a point value. So if you get a submission, maybe it's 3, you get a decision, it's 1. If you lose, 0. So then at the end, maybe, all right, 4 matches in, we got 1 more match to go, and we're down 2. So we got to get the submission. Yeah, it's going to add urgency. There was sometimes a lack of urgency, because what we saw was once somebody, and there was about maybe 4 in day 1, once somebody got the submission, the strategy is just to stay out of harm's way and do just enough to double eliminate, quote unquote, because you're already ahead a teammate or a person, so you're going to be fine to get through. So it was a little bit kind of, we saw the writing on the wall early, like this, the way it kind of started to play out. Took the wind out of the sails a little bit. People got to think a little bit frustrated, and the excitement kind of got zapped a little bit. I mean, again, there were some great matches. There's some guys getting after it. Giancarlo, got a submission, but then also was involved in a little controversial.
In day one, there was a whole submission issue. Where the first one was Giancarlo, right? Which to me that's the real one, because Gio's is like it's. So here's what happened: Giancarlo goes in for a submission, or gets put into a submission by Taylor Pierman, who gets a good catch on his heel hook. He's putting pressure on it, and Giancarlo taps the leg in 2 different parts of the leg in quick succession, right? Taylor Pierman stops. Now the ref didn't stop the match. Taylor Pierman stopped the match. By the way, I have no bone to pick with Taylor Pierman. I don't dislike the guy. He's a good grappler. So I'm just saying as it is. He stopped the match. He stopped the match himself. He says, hey, he tapped out. Giancarlo says, no, I didn't. The ref didn't stop it. The ref says, keep going. And then they sort of stop the match and say, when the crowd's booing, whatever. And they award Taylor Pierman the win. And I thought that was really strange, because for me, I had always learned that the tap was a multiple tap to the same part of the body, a verbal tap. And, as a ref, at times, you kind of understand you got to read body language, right? And if, you see when someone's in danger, you got to rush in there, right? Like when Bilal, when he got put into the ankle lock, his foot popped, right? You could see his body language suggest and signal, hey, something's wrong, versus Giancarlo looked like he was another day at the office. And so I think it's an issue where Taylor Pierman should have kept going and should have tried to send the damn move home, not stop because you thought. And again, this is kind of an interesting thing. I talked about this in a video where I remember talking to a high-level judo. This is like Olympic level, world level judo guy, basically at bigger events than anything Jiu-Jitsu has to offer at this time right now. And he said, I had a guy in an armbar once, and, I'm putting pressure on it, and I start to feel the guy's arm crack and break and pop. And he said it made him feel just it was disgusting. His stomach's turning over. He hated it, the whole deal. But I asked him, I said, well, why'd you keep going? He said, oh, well, because the guy didn't, the the ref didn't stop the match yet.
Yeah.
I went back and watched the video, and the guy is like tapping, he's grimacing, he's flailing. You can see he's wincing in pain, and the ref, for whatever reason, it was like a second and a half, 1/1000 right there, before he signaled the ending after this guy started tapping.
Right.
And so he had to keep going. And, I've read this with Dave Camarillo, like, they were talking about like in judo, I don't know if it's still this way, but they would go for flying submissions and try to break the arm on the way down, because if the person picks you up off the ground, you have to let go of the submission. And he said that in some cases, if you didn't break these guys' arms, man, they'd get back up with a popped arm or whatever, and they would keep going. And so, I wonder, as we get into these situations, these higher level events, and as things grow, if we'll have this culture in jiu-jitsu where, right now we have this sort of nice culture of like, hey, don't rip people's stuff. Like, you think about anytime you see a submission getting like gripped and ripped in competition, you're like, there's a lot of times people get very angry about that because of the culture of jiu-jitsu. Hey, like, give them time to tap out, whatever. But I wonder if we will develop a culture of just grip it and go.
Yeah. Well, they went to I think it was a judge or a referee. They had a referee review it. And so, like, when the referee on the mat stopped it, they had an outside referee review it. Mm-hmm. And they reviewed it as a submission, which...
I mean, he didn't tap. To me, Giancarlo did not tap the same part of the body multiple times. It's like 1-2, and he didn't flail around. There was no wincing. There was no change in his face.
Body language.
He was working his way through it. I don't think he was tapping. And I also think that Taylor Pearman legitimately thought that he tapped. I don't think it was some dirty tactic from him. I think he was probably trying to make sure he didn't hurt him and let go. And so, but I don't think it was a tap.
So if that happens, I mean, ideally, he didn't tap. If they review, I guess you have to keep going till the referee stops. That's the point we're making. I guess in that situation, if they did stop it, what I would like to see them reset them, I guess, in a very similar position. But you're responsible as the guy applying the submission to go until it is
you don't stop the match.
Obviously, don't keep cranking it like Husamar Paharis used to do. And
after the ref stops, if you crank it and send it home until the ref tells you to stop.
Until the ref stops. And when you're at that level, you're at a pro jiu-jitsu event. It's not like a regional or like a tournament in your backyard. This is like, for a lot of money, it's the best in the world. You gotta finish the submission and do it till somebody tells you to stop, and that's usually the referee. Mm-hmm. So, and then we had Gio Martinez kind of got caught in the leg lock, and you saw kind of multiple taps on the same part of the body, kind of we were talking about, and he's never done anything he's never like Brazilian tapped.
So I went and saw another camera angle from the side. Okay. And, again, I genuinely believe I'll take Gio Martinez at his word.
I agree.
That, he did not tap, but maybe he flinched. But the ref did stop the match, so that's it, right? But I went and saw an angle from it where it didn't really look like it. From the front, it looks like he's tapping his knee. Yeah. But there's another one where he kind of like taps, and it's like, it doesn't look conclusive. It doesn't have that same level of like...
Well, the difference is that's maybe an error on the referee's part, but that is a stop. That referee stopped the fight or the match, and that's it. So, I mean, from there, wherever you feel, I mean, it sucks for Gio's last match. He was retiring. For him to go out like that on a kind of a little bit of a controversy. However,
retiring for now.
Yeah,
give him time.
We'll say give him time. He's been in the game forever, man.
I know, man, but I've seen so many guys in jiu-jitsu where it's like they say they retire, then all of a sudden, they'll end up in a master's division somewhere. They're like,
but let's say retire from professional.
From professional, yeah.
When you're a master's, it's not really a professional, I think, setting at that point. Unless you're Wagner, who's 43, still hanging with the dudes, man, hanging with the young guns. That dude's impressive. He is gritty. If you have Chewy, so there's like, we kind of talked about having different roles. Mm-hmm. What are some of those different roles when Wagner kind of played a certain role for New Wave?
Wagner was their stopper.
Yeah.
So for instance, like, in a quintet format, when you need someone who basically has great defense and doesn't get submitted, you send them in there when they've got their, the person that's scoring, so you in a quintet, you want to have someone that's able to get the submission. Well, if that guy enters the ring, you want to get your stopper in there. And Wagner was the stopper several times against tough dudes. In the second day, he was used to stop Kanan, who was who's an amazing Atos grappler, and then he was used to stop Victor Hugo.
Yeah,
right?
Hugo was really.
And again, Hugo was on a tear in that second day, and he put a snuff to it in the finals match, and so he's a stopper. Then you have other people where they're going to be the people that are going to go for the submissions. They're the guys that are going to score, right? So you send them in there and go for it. But the stopper is an interesting part of it, because you need someone that you can put in who can stop people from getting the submission and put a kibosh to it. They typically don't ever get the wins, but they get the stop, and then they double eliminate out, and then they you move on.
Yeah, I mean, the one part of that is usually if they're the stopper, sometimes they're defending the submissions, which Wagner did really well. But again, you lose points if it goes to a judge's decision at the end of the thing. And but he did a great job. I mean, he kind of hung with he lost a tooth while he was at it.
I think he's lost that tooth before. I think it was a cap.
Yeah.
But he's got it like a little because he's got the little nub.
So all right. So who day one? There's some great matches.
Yep.
Some guys really going after it. Brandon Reed went after it against Nicky Rod, and then Pixley after that match. Pixley went after it with Nicky Rod as well. Those guys went after it. They were aggressive, fun to watch. We had another guy, smaller dude that we
Quintet was my, from the first day. Yeah. Quintet was my favorite.
Quintet was fun.
Quintet was their 77 for your Australasia, and he went against the plus 99 and Kyle Bain, and he took it to him with upper body. So a lot of times when you have a smaller guy, like Owen Jones tried to go for, the leg lock entanglements and stuff, which a lot of smaller guys will do. They'll play guard. But Quintet went in there, and, he's built like a brick shithouse anyway, but he came in there and took it to him and was going for upper body, passing, and takedowns and everything else. And, to me, he won the match. And so I was really impressed by that. That was one of my favorite matches, because, it's the underdog getting in there and doing it. And then the Sarah Gamal match, that one was, those were like probably my two favorite matches from the first day. Just because, they were both fun and exciting. There's some good matches that first day, but those are my two favorites.
I thought Dorian was a lot of fun. Olivares.
Oh, well, Dorian.
He was fun like the first day, and then the second day, day two, man, he had a great match. He was just nonstop going after it. He's doing stuff like putting his hand over people's mouths, just trying to get them to react. And he was a lot of fun because he just kind of went after it. And
yeah, but it sucks for those small guys because the whole issue is that they can't really do much, unless they're up against each other, which Ethan Kronstein and him were. They can't really do anything against those bigger guys. It's just hard to get that finish.
Yeah.
When Dorian's all over someone and they can just bench press him off, and then he has to run back in there. But super exciting grappler. I just wish they would have not nerfed the smaller divisions by having him up against the bigger ones.
So what was overall kind of consensus after day one?
After day one, it was didn't like the draws.
Yeah.
And again, they're not really draws, but I don't like the not knowing who won / double elimination draws. I don't know what the hell you call that, right? Where someone won, but you don't know who won until the very end, and it only matters if the teams don't score submissions. But I didn't like that, and I thought the submissions. I thought Giancarlo got kind of screwed over, but I really just didn't like the draws. Yeah. And this is something where I've talked about this for a long time after the Metamorphosis events back in the day, because they were so well produced, they were so exciting, but then the actual event was boring. I've always had a bad taste in my mouth about draws. You cannot have them. You cannot have draws. You have to have two people have to enter the ring, enter the mat, enter the cage, whatever the combat sport is, and someone has to get their hand raised. One person. Otherwise, it leaves you unsatisfied. It's like watching one of those creative movies that knuckle draggers like me don't necessarily care for. That kind of leave it open ended instead of having a nice snappy conclusion. It
ends like that old cliffhanger.
It leaves you going, I'm not satisfied. I want more. And I think when you watch these events, it's the reason why Americans don't like watching soccer. They have draws.
We
they have
talked
ties.
about this, yeah.
You know, we have to watch we want to see that big final conclusion. All of our sports in America have overtimes. Someone's going to win. And, you know, so I've seen people say, well, they should have had like maybe EBI overtimes. Again, I've talked about this before. If you have EBI overtimes, then basically people do nothing and they wait for the EBI overtime.
Yeah.
The judges, having a judge's decision, just like they did with last year, they were making it anyway. Just give the people raise the hands. That's all they had to do. But they didn't do that, and I was bummed about that. Overall, it was a good event. It was a fun event, and it was exciting. But I think you were missing that conclusion to it, that snappiness of the ending, and seeing people get their hand raised. I think that's really, really important. And so I think that was what was missing to me, especially on that first day.
I think talking to people at the venue, and then also kind of just reading some things, some reactions to the event, and, you know, waking up on Sunday morning with Craig Jones posting about, hey, here's $50K for a submission.
Right.
I think Craig knew something was up.
Something was wrong. Well,
I think that you just, you know, you don't do that. You don't incentivize it in that way if the event's going great. So I think that he knew it was going slower than he expected it. It wasn't quite popping the way he wanted. And I think he was like, well, we got to throw some money at these guys. And anything else to add? It's okay. I think, you know.
I thought it was, again, it was good. It was just one of those things where, you know, I think day one would have been more exciting for the average person if they had the hands getting raised for those judges' decisions.
Yeah.
You know, even the first day of the CJI last year wasn't as exciting as day two. Like if you go back and look at it, day two was much more exciting of the CJI than the first day. But, you know, again, just at least having people get their hand raised is really important. Again, I think Chael Sonnen is the one who sort of talked about this. It's conflict resolution. You have this conflict between these two people, and it needs to be resolved. And if you have draws, it leaves you desiring more.
Yeah.
But then, you know, on to day two. Day two starts with a bang, and you know you have a situation where things just start to get a little funny. Day two starts off kind of funny. So there's a point where, you know, Mika and the Hulk are going, and the Hulk gets a passivity call that is somehow, I guess, it deducts a point or something. So
he was on top. So Mika's on bottom. Barbosa's on top. I believe maybe he's in the top half.
I thought he was in top half.
Chest to chest.
Yep.
Mika's against the side of like the wall. And all of a sudden the ref is like, they were maybe there for a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
I mean, I don't know. It didn't seem like it was that long. And they give him the passivity call.
Passivity call. So they stand him up.
They deduct a point.
Yep. And then they flip him. They put
But they
Mika
hadn't done
top.
that. They didn't, because they gave passivity calls the first day, but they didn't flip them.
Yeah, literally. Well, they didn't take a point.
You know, well, I felt like he did take a point in one of the matches. Maybe I'm wrong.
I do not recall.
I felt like in the first, because I remember the first day I was like, "What are they taking points for?" You know, because I had to go look up the points. I was like, "Oh, I didn't know they were doing like a 10. Like I didn't know they were doing the 10-point round system for the matches." But anyway, they take away a point and they flip them upside down. And you're like, "Oh, this is a surprise." Guess we're just making up some new rules here. You know, maybe that was already in it. Maybe we just didn't know about it.
Yeah, it was like maybe a minute and a half left in the match. Mika is on top of Barbosa, and then the match is over. I would say that one was kind of, I would say, you know, Barbosa, the bigger grappler, was kind of, you know, I think he's probably winning the match.
Okay.
I think he's probably winning from what I recall. Again, usually the bigger guy ends up on top. The bottom guy, if he's a smaller guy, they end up defending. That's usually the way it goes. They get the decision. But this time, that did not happen. So then the next one, I think it would end up being Luke Griffith against Diego Pato. And Pato came out really, he's a 66 kilo. Griffith is plus 99. Pato came out guns blazing for about 2.5 minutes or so. And then Griffith took his back and then subbed him.
Yeah, and it's tough.
And,
It's tough. And then, you know, this created a situation where then Pena, you know, Felipe Pena comes out and they're down points.
Yeah, Griffith and Pena are going next.
And if Pena doesn't beat Griffith and they get double eliminated, you know, the New Way still has they're 99 kilo and laying in weight, ready to go, right? And Kanan was already out because of Bacarosa. So Pena comes out, just goes after Luke.
That was a great match.
Super exciting match. He's pushing the pace. Griffith is defending and escaping and countering and doing his best, but they're going. They're not saving anything for the next match, right?
Yep. And then so Pena ends up getting he was attacking triangle for the head and arm choke from top, ended up getting the arm bar, and pretty much spent, because there's maybe a minute or two left in the match, pretty much spent most of his energy. And then Oliveras comes in and
Dorian, and he just was all over him.
Gets after, and the whole time, dude, he is just like, he dumped him, like put him against the wall, dumped him, jumping around, getting into mount, taking his back, like just like a little, just all over the place, man. But it was so impressive. And let's talk about that for a second. That match, Pena defended probably 80% of the time. Is that 10-8 or is that 10-9?
Yeah, and I looked at the criteria on the CJI website.
All right, let's look through it.
So when I'm looking at the CJI 2 website, it says, here's the criteria. A round is scored 10-9 when an athlete wins by a close margin. A round is to be scored 10-8 when an athlete is overwhelmingly dominant throughout the round. And so for me, this is strange because there's several matches that I think you could have scored a 10-8 round to. Most, because a lot of these matches were one-sided in some cases. The match with Dorian and Pena, it's a one-sided match. The match with Nicky Rod and Bixley, to me, I guess it was a 10-8 because it was a very clear dominant performance. Like one guy's throwing you around, the other guy's, so I think you would need to be a little bit more clear. What does it mean to be overwhelmingly dominant? Does that mean that I pass your guard and get to dominant position? What does that mean? So, they have a thing here like close submission attempts, initiating action, positional control, and so forth. So, those are
subjective. The submission attempt. What's a close submission attempt, right? To
me, is this is something where it's like there are Jiu-Jitsu opens. We talk about this. A submission attempt is when the person has to, you see them have to physically move and react. Yeah. So because again, if you're like putting me in some submission attempt, then I just sort of shrug it off. That's not a close one. But if I'm having to flail and move, that's a close submission attempt where you see this person go into a state of urgency. But anyway. So they have this 10-8, system going on. I don't know. That's the issue again with the lack of transparency. They should know, like, listen, every match is over. So let's say, this match one happens. It goes to the judges to criteria. It should say, so-and-so wins a 10-8 round, whatever, against, we need to know.
Yes. So
right? We need to know. The competitors need to know. It's really important because how are the competitors supposed to strategize if they're like, we don't really know where we're at. We won one match, whatever, but we don't really know. I think that's, I think it was a lost opportunity both for excitement and also for transparency, which would be very helpful
down the line, which we will discuss, because
that was the big thing,
But that's an easy tweak to make, right?
No, it's very easy.
You don't have to change anything with the rules. Essentially, you're just kind of like letting people know this is where we're at right now. And they did that last year at CJI. They were talking about it's kind of like
open scoring.
Yeah, open scoring. So kind of the guys knew like, hey, it's 2 rounds to none.
You knew round by round who was winning, who was losing.
And it was great. People went after it. Again, we saw a taste of that in the women's tournament.
Yep. They did. They were using last year's.
They were using last year's scoring criteria. Sarah Galval and Helena Cravar had attacking each other. They were in the finals. They had a great match. Helena ended up getting her with a straight ankle. But they were going after each other, and the women brought it. There's a lot on the line too for them. Getting a good amount of money, and they brought it. The women. So it's just like you have a formula that works. It's exciting, and of course you want to make it unique. You don't want to do the same thing over and over. But I think we're getting more data on what works and what doesn't, which is in the long run. it's helpful if you want to do, you know, like I said, the same type of tournament you did last year. You can do it. You kind of know what works. This year, you know what kind of worked, what didn't work, and how to tweak it and make it better. You can do like a duels type meet. You can have open scoring. You know, again, there's a lot of uncertainty, and Craig, I think, likes kind of the uncertainty, but I think that maybe that uncertainty came to a head as day 2 ended.
And I mean, you know, I'm looking at the rules as we're going through, and some of these things were laid out there, like a second call to, you know, as a deduction on teams points. So it's all there.
Yeah.
It just,
but it's subjective. When do you stand up? There's plenty of times in day 1 that you should have freaking.
I agree.
Called passivity, taking a point.
Well, here's something also too. This is something that like my buddy Brandon McGaffron's talked about. He was one of the commentators there. At his tournament, the PGF, they will actually give the stalling call quicker to the person on the bottom level. So let's say that if you are in top of mount and you have someone underneath of you, they will give the stalling call to the person on the bottom faster than they'll give it on the top, because the person on the bottom is supposed to be getting out of those positions and escaping. You know, whereas a lot of times the person on top and mount is working like a grip or something. And so, you know, the person on the bottom just shells up and then the person on top gets the stalling call. But you're like, what are they supposed to just give this position up because and make, you know, stupid movements? Whereas, you know, with his event at the PGF, they'll actually give stalling calls to the person on the bottom, which makes the person really fight for the escape, which opens up opportunities to get the submissions.
Again, it's all about excitement, you know, make it entertaining. So what ended up happening was New Wave ended up beating Atos. They were in the finals. You had B team going against Australasia. Australasia. I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
So the first match of that was Wojcik and Kennard, and both leg lockers. And you kind of made a really great point that they're both very sensitive to those positions they were in. So it kind of almost stalemate. It was a very tough.
I mean, that was a tough one to score. I maybe gave it a little edge to Lucas, but you know, it's a tight margin, and both of those guys were, you know, essentially they're playing the same game.
And then you had the next one was Kenta against Nicky Rod.
Kenta against Nicky Rod, and
that was awesome.
I mean, Kenta friggin' brought it, dude. It was like, you know, he definitely didn't win that match, but he went toe-to-toe with him and did the best he could, and he looked pretty damn good at times and was on top of him and was, you know, he was standing his own ground as the...
He put him in a deep leg lock.
Sure.
Deep leg lock. And then there was one time where Kenta was literally jumping to try to take him down. Like, literally, it was like he was off the ground, just diving, going after it, pushing the pace, had probably the, you know... had the deepest submission attempt. So, I mean, what are you counting? That was a pretty deep submission attempt. Nicky Rod was really busting his ass to try to get out of there.
Yeah, but I think Nicky Rod did enough in that match to deserve the win. But, I mean, Kenta still impressed the hell out of me by, like, standing toe-to-toe with him.
Yeah, then so those guys kind of eliminated each other. You go to Victor Hugo against... Andre.
Yeah. So you have the plus 99 versus the 66.
And he was the biggest guy I think in the tournament.
I don't know
I think
if
he was like 200, or he was like
well, he's 120 kilos, but Brandon I think was heavier.
Well, that, and then who's the guy from Declan? Declan was big too.
Declan wasn't as big.
He wasn't as big.
No, I think he was a little bit lighter. I think Declan was like, Declan I don't think was the same. He was
so Hugo kind of went on a little bit of a run. He was the only guy I think that got 2 submissions in a row.
Yeah, but he beat the 66.
On 66, and then he went Bilal, who was
had a
injured.
broken foot.
Broken foot. Dude had a broken foot, was supposed to be out. They had him on the little screen. He was like crossed out.
He was grayed out.
I actually was out walking around for a second, and I heard the announcer say he's gonna compete, and I was like, what? So didn't quite have really. Yeah. He's a leg locker, but not really a lot of mobility. Just not a lot there.
Yeah, I was
do a whole lot.
I was hoping that they were going to find like an alternate, and I guess it's not a part of the rules, and they weren't let it happen. But I'm like, it's a tournament format. And when it comes to tournament formats, you always have an alternate ready because someone's going to get injured. It's just the nature of the beast. We're not playing patty cake. And so I think, I wish they would have an alternate because it kind of puts them at a disadvantage to not have a fifth, especially in a quintet format. You don't have a fifth person to go with. And so I thought that was a bummer. maybe part of the rules, whatever, but nonetheless, I still think it would kind of suck for him.
Yeah.
And because to be honest, Australasia was doing really well. I think they were winning up until Victor Hugo. I think they were winning it, right? Because they were up on points and everything else. And Declan, he had probably a 10-8 round against the guy he went against. And, maybe if we're scoring it, right? Because it was very dominant. Heck, you could probably even given it a, 10-7 round where he because they have a 10-7 round in this as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close. But anyway, in the end, the Australasia loses. And, B team goes on to
the finals. And then we get, the women's match was discussed. Sarah Galval and Helena. Helena did really well. I think subbed her in the second or third round.
It was third.
Straight ankle.
Yeah.
It was a gnarly straight ankle. Looked like it was not quite straight ankle. She put some torque on that thing. But it was nasty, but it was awesome. A great match. I'm sure they'll meet each other again. The thing is, this is the third time they've competed against each other.
Okay.
And then you had Craig versus Chael, which Chael comes out. My favorite part was Chael coming out first.
That was probably the most entertaining part of the whole tournament.
Giving his
pro wrestling style.
Pro wrestling style. And everybody's pumped up. And from the looks of it, I think Chael hadn't trained in quite a while.
He's probably training, but he's probably being a dad and running his business and
he's
stuff
also,
like that.
45?
Yeah,
47.
it's like he's not being an athlete all the time, right? He's probably just enjoying his life and doing his thing. Yeah. And they called him last minute, so he's like, "Hey, I'll jump in." Why not?
Craig didn't say a whole lot. He comes in, kind of gets
I don't think Craig
introduced.
talked at all.
He didn't because they
even offered the microphone and he was like, "No, I'm good."
Basically, Chael goes in for a takedown and Craig buggy chokes him, puts him to sleep. So that should be the end of it. But everybody starts screaming, cheering, and
Chael goes
says
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. So John McCarthy's the ref. He's like, "All right," gives them literally a minute. They go back at it. Same thing. Except Chael goes out for a little bit less time this time. I don't think he was on his way to getting choked out.
Yeah.
That was it. They asked Craig to get on the mic. Craig said no and just got off the mat.
Yeah, and then Gabby was kind of there hanging out for a while.
Gabby was hanging out. It was a little bit of kind of that little, I don't want to say freak show type thing, but you had Craig and Gabby last year.
It was an entertaining.
It was goofy.
It was silly fun, and Chael. You put Chael in there.
Chael's a good time.
He's funny. He's funny. He's entertaining. So that was a good time. And then you get to the finals.
So finals, we've got B team against New Wave. So let's talk about maybe a couple controversial things.
So it was Mika. It was Mika, Bodoni, and Dorian.
Yeah, so
they won, and then they all won 10-9s.
Yep.
And then it was Hugo and then Nicky Rod, and Nicky Rod won a 10-8, which made it a draw.
You went against Luke Griffith.
Yeah. But I don't know, but if you're giving Nicky Rod a 10-8, I don't know how Dorian doesn't get a 10-8, because Dorian was dominating the crap out of Ethan Krellenstein. Again, Dorian's a monster. And so I don't know how you give Nicky Rod a 10-8 where he basically held body lock and he was in good positions, but he never had any deep submissions. And it was competitive a little bit in the beginning with Luke Griffith, but when it was with Dorian, the match was all Dorian from the beginning. Right? So I don't know how you don't give him a 10-8 round.
After it's all said and done, we thought it was 3 rounds.
It was 3. It was 3 wins to 3 wins to 2 wins.
3-2, and 48-47.
Yeah,
we thought New Wave
wins.
And so they read the scores. They say 47-47. So we're like, it's all the judges scored at 47-47. So we're okay. So what happens now? Then they said there was they're going to base it off of the last match, which was a 10-8. For Nicky Rod and B team.
Yeah, and again, this is in this. Like looking at the points and stuff like that, it's in there.
So it does say the match.
It does. It's all there. The issue with it is that again, you know, I don't know how you can tell me that the Nicky Rod match was so much more dominant than Dorian, right? I think my rub is that I think there was a lack of transparency in that, and I think it just, you know, it seemed like a little home cooking. Now, it may not be, but it just looks at it, you're like, just man, I don't know how you give that guy a 10-8 and Dorian doesn't get a 10-8. You know, to me, it just feels like a little sketchy, you know, that the guy running the whole thing, his guys win, and it's a very contested thing. And again, this goes back to the ideas of draws and stuff like that. If people were getting their hand raised and we knew what the points were as we were going, this wouldn't have been a problem.
We might know. We know what a 10-8 looks like.
We would have been like, we would have been knowing what a 10-8 was looking like the whole time. We would have been like, that's definitely a 10-8 round. We would be in sync with the judges. And then when the points are getting scored, we would have known, Nicky Rod just got a 10-8 for that one. It wouldn't have been a surprise to us. They would have had to make it official. You know what I mean? But I just think that there was a lack of transparency with the points and everything else. And it just goes back to it. You know, you can't have a tiebreaker and win like that. You have to have like something that definitively says, let's end this. You know, like maybe you have like a lightning round where you say, all right, we're gonna pick our two best guys and they're gonna go at it. You know, or something. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like.
A lot of people booed. From what I remember, as soon as the decision came out, people kind of I was not happy about it.
I was talking to a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of cheers. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people that are obviously B Team fans and everything else. I'm a fan of B Team. I'm a fan of like a lot of those guys.
Those guys are awesome.
I really like those guys. I don't like, you know, like someone was asking me like, who do you hope was going to win? I'm like, I don't have a dog in the fight. You know, once Brandon Reed was out of it, who was, you know, one of my buddies, I'm like, I don't have a dog in the fight. Yeah. I'm just cheering on for good matches. You know, and so that's all I'm looking for. Yeah. And so the point, the ending, I think, was a bit anticlimactic and a bit controversial because, you know, again, you're looking at this and you're like, I don't believe. Like I said, it's 3-2, and I don't see how. I mean, heck, Victor Hugo's match was. I know that's what I was going to talk about. Victor Hugo had a very dominant performance against Wagner. He was in control the whole time. He had his back. I think his match was worthy of being called a 10-8 before Nicky Rod's against Luke Griffith was. Yeah. You know, to me, it just seems a little fishy that, you know, it came down to the wire in a match that should have been a 10-9 was given a 10-8, and.
I agree. You know, I think the Victor Hugo match against Wagner was like he had his back. I mean, he was trying to sink in the choke. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think having transparency of like, hey, here's the score going in. We know what a 10-8 looks like because we've seen a few of them. We kind of can use that make as an apples-to-apples comparison. So it's kind of like there's controversy throughout this tournament. And I think it ended with some controversy. Congrats to B Team. They did a great job. New Wave did a great job as well. I think, you know, in my opinion, I think New Wave won 3-2 on that last that finals meet. But again, you know, it is what it is. It was a great show. It was a great event. There was a lot of, you know, positives that came out of it. We learned a lot. Some things that worked, some things that didn't. It's always special kind of just to be in Vegas with like all the Jiu-Jitsu Con and Master Worlds going on. So you have a lot of Jiu-Jitsu people everywhere. And then you have a lot of people coming in for the CJI. And it's just it's a cool experience to have all of these Jiu-Jitsu people together, just kind of supporting Jiu-Jitsu. And I enjoyed it. I think, of course, there's room for improvement. Mm-hmm. And we learned a lot, and hopefully, you know, if there is a CJI 3, is there a rule set you want to see? You want to see it go back to the?
I think they would. I think either if you're going to do teams, switch it to duels.
Okay.
If not, put it back to what it was before. Put it back to like, you know, just competitors out against each other and have, you know, a 3-round system and make sure that there is a winner and a loser and it's clearly understood and. Everybody knows that someone won when they leave the match.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's really, really important.
Well, the athletes know, the fans know, everybody's kind of on the same page. And that transparency it's fun. It makes it more exciting too, because you're like, man, they really got to go after it, or this person's got to do this thing.
The people you're trying to make this a spectator sport, you got to let us in on it, because for instance, it's like, for instance, if one of the guys gets his hand raised and we see the win, what are we going to do? We're going to cheer. We're going to clap. We're like, yeah, whatever. We know that it doesn't matter if there's not a submission, but we know that this person just won. Like you could call it a minor victory or whatever, whatever it is, but you cheer. Versus these two guys just fought their faces off, and all right, double elimination. Next people. That kind of sucks. Should have been like, these guys fought their faces off. This guy won by a ref's decision. Now we're going to move on to the next group.
Or judge's decision.
Yeah, judge's decision, right? That's what I mean, judge's decision.
It is like almost like 1 o'clock out here in Vegas, so it's getting a little late.
Yeah, we're getting a little loopy.
So, Chew, any closing thoughts, ideas?
Again, I think it probably comes off as like we're probably pooping on the CJI, and I hope it isn't taken that way. It's one of those things where things are a little fishy sometimes. Like when I watched the ADCC, a couple of years ago, I remember it was a great event, and I liked the ADCC, and I talked about how I hate the long matches. I thought it makes it boring. And I've shared that. But again, I still support the events. I still like them. But again, it's one of those things where the good stuff, you kind of just, it's the good stuff. We all see it, like the production value. They had a couple of mistakes first day. They got back to normal and into a good place on the second day. The energy in the room was good. It was a packed house. You had a lot less seats open than you did last year. The competitors were really good. It was a good event overall. It was an exciting event overall. We went both days and everything else. I just think that there was just that little something missing. It's just like a little bit of spice missing from the soup. And I think that was seeing people get their hand raised so that the crowd could be a part of it and cheer on. And so also we all knew what was going on, who was winning, how much they were winning by. So we were a part of that sort of understanding. I think it would have made, if in fact there is no home cooking, no nothing, I think it would have made the win by B team a little bit easier to understand for the crowd if in fact the whole time we were kind of getting in sync with the judges by how they were scoring things like a 10-8, whatever, then we would know what to expect. And so I think that was that's my biggest thing with this. So I think that's why I really like the open scoring. So hopefully they do a CJI 3. They'll just go back to open scoring or make this damn thing a duels and, not use the Quintet format, because I don't think the Quintet format is really all that fun unless you have people that are roughly the same size, give or take.
Yeah, having a winner and a loser.
Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, that's it. I think having a winner and a loser is really important. Talked about kind of the positive and negative reinforcement ideas. Losing stings, it hurts. People don't want to lose. They don't want to have that on their record. I think it also gives us a sense of finality in the situation. We talked about soccer. I'm a big soccer fan. I wouldn't say I'm a big soccer. I played soccer, so I understand it, but soccer is kind of difficult because there's not a lot of scoring. There's draws and ties and things like that, which is not the most exciting thing
for the untrained.
That's okay, but that's the thing, right? Can we support this thing? Can we make jiu-jitsu grow? We got to get other people involved. I think it would help. I don't think we have to. It would help grow jiu-jitsu. If you want to get more money out there, you want to make this thing, more mainstream, if that's what people want. I don't know if that's even what people want.
Well, it's never, I was talking to someone out there today, it's never going to be spectator. It's never going to be a spectator sport. It's always going to be a sport that is watched by the participants. You can't, because grappling is so there was a guy.
It's like soccer, man. You got to know what they're doing, what they're working on.
So I was talking to a bunch of Aussies, and we're talking, and one of their buddies that they brought with them, he's not a grappler.
Okay.
And he's watching it, and he's like, I just don't understand what the hell's going on.
Wow.
Right? They just had the Chris Wojcik match and Lucas match.
Yes.
They're just playing this
both leg lockers.
Both leg lockers, sitting on their butts, attacking legs. Now, I know what they're doing. I'm entertained by it, but most people are like, I have no clue if they don't know. And so he said, I just don't understand. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. And I told him, I was like, it's like why, me watching soccer. Americans we don't get it. We're like, man, nobody scores. You guys kick this ball around everywhere and nobody gets any scores. This is boring. and they got a laugh out of
Well,
it. But
setups and progressions, right? It's all about like the setup, the grips, the positioning. Same thing in soccer. You can see the kind of the play starting to build, opening up the field. So it's similar in those ideas. Again, soccer has become a little more mainstream here in the States, more than it was. But I think grappling can. I think there's ways to do it. I think we talk about UFC, BJJ, although a lot of their ideas seem to mimic or built off of the Craig Jones Invitational, the first one.
They all build off of each other.
But it's very exciting.
Well, because Craig Jones built off of the UFC like round system that was used at their different events. Because the UFC BJJ like sort of format, they used that years ago for one of their events. Then Craig took a pit with it and open scoring.
Yeah, it took the karate combat pit.
The UFC took the 10-point must system from boxing and were forced to use it. Everything's iterative, right? We're all just sort of working and remixing and adjusting. And it's like techniques. You take a technique from someone and you make it your own. You tweak it a little bit. So everybody's just tweaking. They're all just tweaking things. Trying to figure out. But I think the format they had last year was probably the best.
It was great.
I think that's, as far as the best spectator, I think they cracked the code. It's there. Let's use that. And I think quintets are fine. They're interesting. They're fun. As long as you have people that are roughly, again, within about 30 pounds. Because when you start getting these big mismatches of size, I just think it becomes, they don't stand a chance in hell to get it. I've always thought this way about quintets. I'm not the biggest fan of the format. It's fun to compete in. It's kind of a fun little side thing, but I don't think it's really fun for something like this where you're putting a lot of money on the line. I don't think it makes for a good championship type of thing. It's more of like a fun side thing. Yeah. Whereas I think you could still run like a wrestling style duel, like in college wrestling, where there's a wrestling, you have teams going against each other.
Right, you have the team's idea.
It's super exciting. And,
I think something that was, look at the most exciting matches from last year. The Cade Rutolo, the Tacketts, Levi Jones-Leary, none of those guys were in it this time. They're kind of a couple of them are at ONE FC, a couple of them at UFC.
Yeah. So, and that was a controversy from last year. A lot of people thought Levi won. A lot of people thought Cade won. So again,
there's going to be
always going to be a little controversy, right? There's always going to be that thing. But again, that's where I'm at. Like I said, good event overall. I would, from 1 to 10, let's say that 10 being like, the best. CJI was up there last year. I'd probably say 8 or 9 last year.
Yeah.
As far as jiu-jitsu events go. And then this year's, I'd probably say it's like a solid 6, 7.
Yeah, I was thinking 7.
I was like 7's pretty
Definitely
good.
Room to improve,
7's pretty good, but at the same time, it's like with like some of the lack of transparency, lack of draws and stuff, or the abundance of draws, maybe like a 6.
I think they got a lot of creative, intelligent people work on this thing. Mm-hmm. They made this thing happen. Had a lot more time, and I think if they do make a third one, which I hope they do, I encourage you guys to come. I think it'll be better. I think they're going to learn from a lot of the stuff. They're going to take feedback. Craig obviously is kind of like a man of the people. He listens to he's like a fan favorite. He wants to please the fans. Mm-hmm. He's throwing out $50K for submissions. He wants everyone to be happy. He wants the fighters to be taken care of. So I think he's going to do, if he's a part of this thing, he's going to do what probably needs to be done to make it kind of most exciting game.
And it's like jiu-jitsu techniques. You fail with them before you perfect them, right? So hopefully they go back to the drawing board, tweak things out, and make a better event next year.
Yeah. All right,
guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully you got something from it. I guess there's not really so much of an idea to chew on. Maybe there's something to get you to think a little differently. But again, that's our experience. Thanks for a lot of you guys for coming up and saying hey.
Yeah, that's cool.
Met several podcast listeners. You guys were like, I like the podcast and stuff. Met some of the Patreon members. So appreciate you guys for coming up and saying hey. It's cool to meet the people on the other end of the interwebs. The people that watch the podcast or listen to the podcast. It was really cool to meet you guys. So appreciate you guys for saying hey, and hopefully you guys had a good time at the event, and hopefully see you guys at the next ones.
Big thanks to our sponsors for helping make the podcast happen. You can check them out athletic.com, ATHLETHC. As the name implies, they make THC microdosed mints, so it's a very low dose of THC along with other cannabinoids to help you get different states to improve functions like getting into flow state or getting a good workout in or resting and recovering. And so they've got a lot of cool products there. You can check them out and get 10% off your order if you go to their website at athletic, ATHLETHC.com, and the promo code is Chewjitsu10 for 10% off the order. Also, thanks to our buddies over at Epic Roll. Epic Roll is a jiu-jitsu brand company made by jiu-jitsu practitioners, right? It's people like us that are training, doing the damn thing, out there competing sometimes, living the lifestyle, and then also, selling cool gear. And so if you guys want to check them out, go to epicrollbjj.com. And the promo code to save 20% is Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. Also, if you guys want to check out our longtime sponsor, Charlotte's Web, and get some of their CBD, CBN products, or even some of their functional mushroom products like lion's mane and reishi to assist with a number of different functions, go to their website at charlottesweb.com. And they have a huge discount, 30% off. So you go use the promo code Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order on whatever you buy. Again, this is stuff that I think is really useful. I give my students samples, and a lot of them end up getting more of it. Many of you had sent me messages saying you enjoy the products. And so, again, they've been a long-time sponsor, and we appreciate them, and check them out. Also, if you guys want to support the podcast directly, you can roll on over to our website at patreon.com/the Chewjitsu podcast. When you go there, you check out all the perks that we offer. There's a whole list of them on the site. You can see the different tiers and everything else that you can join up as. And when you join up, you'll be supporting the podcast you're listening to for less than probably a Starbucks run or a fast food run or food run at Chipotle or whatever, So again, if you guys want to check it out, we appreciate it. You go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And last but not least, I know these are long advertisements, guys. I know that most of you don't listen to them, but we appreciate those of you that listen to them and actually take part of it because it does support the podcast, does help us out. You can check it out at chujitsu.net/join. And when you go to that website, that will give you access to my daily email that I send out. And thousands and thousands of people read that damn thing, more than I ever thought would have ever read it. It's crazy. And when you get that daily email, I will go through different ideas. If you're, as I talked about, if you're on my daily email, you'll definitely get some judo inspired emails coming up in the future. But I go through all kinds of different stuff. I'll even send out different book lists, generally like once or twice a year, with just a list of books you can check out, and also send out jiu-jitsu tips, and also give special offers to people, where basically you get discounts that I don't send anywhere else. And so you can check it out at chujitsu.net/join. And when you join up, you will get my Focus Jiu-Jitsu ebook and video, which goes into 12 different strategies. And again, I ramble on in the video a bit more, so there's more than there, but I go through different strategies on how you can improve faster. As we talk about on the podcast today, improving in jiu-jitsu requires focus. And the less time you have, the more focused you need to be, because you don't have the window to just make up for bad training with more effort, more time. You don't have it. And so you got to be dialed in. And so this will give you some strategies on how to do that and where to start. So if you're thinking, okay, I want to be focused, what should I do? It'll give you different strategies that you can implement during open rolling. So you don't have to even do drilling or nothing like that. It can just give you strategies and questions to ask yourself and ways to think about what could I do to get the most out of my open rolls. So if you guys want to get access to that, check it out at chujitsu.net/join to do that. And guys, that's it for the podcast. Thank you as always, and we'll talk to you next time.